Well, good evening, everybody. Don't worry, my eyesight is not gone bad. This is not young Andrew Whitehead next to me. This is the dude himself. Good evening, Mr. Eric Jose, or good afternoon, I should say, over there on Crunch Island. How's it going today?
Over there on Crunch Island? What is it? I don't know. Is it raining there today?
Have you had a chance to recover from MaM-a-Thon?
I actually, I am recovered. Funny thing is, I woke up on Sunday. I was messed up on Saturday, totally screwed up on Saturday. Like, it was bad. Because I stayed up I watched all of Johnny's.
Yeah.
And then I was watching part of yours.
Yep.
I don't know. I was probably at least a half an hour, 45 minutes into yours. And then suddenly I'm waking up and Jerome's finishing up. Sharon is getting ready to go live. I'm like, oh, crap. I'm supposed to be on her segment. So I'm like getting ready to.
Yeah. I mean, you had a particularly strange schedule because you were first up and last up.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, of course, everybody got 3 segments.
Right.
And everybody got to do 4-hour segments.
Well, I originally did have an hour on Saturday, but Tracy needed it because she ended up getting so many exonerees to come talk on her segment that she needed a little more time. So I went ahead and gave away my hour on Saturday. But, it was all right. And her guests were awesome. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed listening to every one of her guests. So,
Yes, I obviously I didn't get to listen to everybody. It wasn't feasible for me to catch everything, but certainly on the because you kicked off your Friday evening, which was my early hours of the morning. Mm-hmm. And then on the Saturday night, I did manage to tune in. I sort of woke up in the middle of the night, and I caught some of you with Andrew and Fresh Start Monday.
Yep.
And Thomas Myrtle. So
yeah, you should have seen. I was chomping at the bit that entire live. I was chomping at the bit to get in there because I wanted to talk to Alex. I was listening to some of the things he was saying. I'm like, I need to set him straight. So I was like trying to get in there. Andrew was like, love Andrew, but he was so caught up in trying to make sure he was putting on a good show and staying focused on the live and everything. He wasn't really seeing the chat. So eventually I'm over there going, give me a link. And eventually Jamie Hart, who was the moderator, he sticks out a little better because he's blue and he's got that little wrench at the end of his name. Then eventually he said, Eric Jose wants to get in there, Andrew. And finally Andrew sent me a link. I'm like, I'm getting in there. I was like, oh, dude, Alex, what's up, dude? I'm like, dude, you need to get back into the game, dude. I was like, oh, it was great. It was a lot of fun. I hadn't talked to Alex in a while, so it was just, brilliant. And then I, of course, had to tell Andrew, look, dude, don't be so hard on yourself, Andrew. You're doing a great job, buddy. So, and he did. Everybody did. Everybody did a really, really good job. It was a really, really good event. So, but to get back to what I was saying about Saturday is that I woke up and so I got on with Sharon and stuff. And then I thought I was okay, but I had only had about 3 hours sleep. So later on, about 9:30, I'm crashing again. I'm totally crashing again. And so then I fell asleep again. And it was for 3 hours. Then I woke up. Then I was okay. Then I went to bed at Saturday night. Maybe I think it was about midnight. Maybe I went because I was watching some segments. And then by the time I woke up on Sunday morning, I was fine. I never felt like I was about to crash out on Sunday. I was fully aware, awake, boom, and trying to help all the hosts as best I could and try to keep an eye on things. And so it was, it was weird, but Saturday had me, dude. Cause I guess I just stayed up till 3 or 4 in the morning. It just totally screwed me up.
So for some people who this will be their first time watching MaM-a-Thon, presumably because obviously a lot of people have got Netflix and are going through the channels and realizing there's a documentary called Making a Murderer. How did MaM-a-Thon sort of first start off?
Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on how you might hear it, but the way I recall it all happening was, there was talk about doing a potential streaming event, just kind of scuttlebutt in the supporter community, where and we were the idea was getting kicked around. So the first ones to actually really pick up the ball and start running with it would, to my mind, it's Ali and Tracy. At least that's what I've always heard. And it made sense because I remember exactly how much Ali and Tracy were part of it, and not only them, but a lot of other folks that go into making MaM-a-Thon work. But essentially, it was an idea that was getting kicked around, and Tracy and Ali kind of picked up the ball and started running with it, and asking me and Paul and obviously Ali herself was host last year. And everything, and so we put the little event together with the 4 hosts, just the 4 of us, and then we started trying to get guests and get people on that we thought people would be interested in, and which we did. I mean, Tracy had Michael Cini, I believe his name was, during the first MaM-a-Thon, which was really interesting. All kinds of interesting people, all the Redditors that came in and were sharing some of the stuff that they had, been finding. A lot of FOIAs, Henbury coming through with some brilliant FOIAs that he had gotten towards the end of MaM-a-Thon. Anyway, it was mainly, I guess, it was Ali and Tracy, obviously, that picked up the ball and ran with it. But honestly, it's a group effort. There's no 1 or 2 people that can make this happen all by themselves, and that's what makes it great. That's what actually is so good about MaM-a-Thon, is that everybody gets to feel involved, and they all get to feel like they're contributing, and that's what makes it such a heartwarming event, and continues to keep people's interest, in my opinion.
Okay, a couple of observations. First of all, yes, MaM-a-Thon. The first MaM-a-Thon, certain highlights for me included, as you say, a lot of the Redditors that came on. In particular, TikTok Manitowoc.
Yep.
Made an appearance. And also, you mentioned Michael Cialini. He wrote a book about...
Cini, I believe his name was.
Cini, yeah. But also another very famous author called John Farrak.
Yes. They had John Farrak on with me in my first segment, absolutely. Along with Sandy Greenman.
Yeah. But what's... Oh, here's Andrew. Here's Andrew. So we're going to add him in. And a quick apology, Andrew. I thought you were Eastern time. So, hence I got all my maths wrong. I do apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
How you doing?
Pretty good. And you?
Oh, not bad at all. You're just in time. I really wanted to ask the dude about the history of MaM-a-Thon, and I feel a little bit like one of my pupils many years ago, a music student who was preparing to do her O-level music, and I said, "Oh, what did you do today in music?" And she said, "Oh, well, we started looking at the history of music." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. You mean like Bach and Brahms and Beethoven and Liszt?" She said, "No, Elvis Presley." from Elvis Presley, as if before Elvis Presley there wasn't music, and only since Elvis Presley, the history of music.
That can't be true, because didn't he rip off the blues players, the African American blues players at the time? Wasn't he just basically ripping them off? So,
well, I've got something to share with the pair of you that I think we can actually trace the origins of MaM-a-Thon, which is basically all these people coming together. People who have evolved into YouTubers over the years.
Yeah.
I can actually date it back to a particular incident when Eric Ose himself was encouraging people to come forward and make their own videos, you see, and to do what we're doing. So I'm gonna share this with you now. Parental guidance might be needed.
Yeah, folks.
But bear with me, okay? Now this.
And I'm just gonna say this: you don't have to wonder about what a true Scotsman wears under his kilt, folks. Because
this is me many years ago. Okay, and this is also me many years ago.
Yeah,
with the full Highland.
Nope, I know who that is. But not,
and this is Eric Ose a few years back. Oh, sorry, Eric Ose, wrong one. Here's Eric Ose. And that was.
At least I got the calves for the kilt. Anyways,
yeah. It's. I think we can go back to when you started trying to encourage people to come forward and do a video. And can you remember one of the persons that actually came forward and did a video?
Yeah, it was Mark.
The Hod, yeah.
The Hod. Yeah.
So
he was one of the very first ones. That's when I started becoming friends with the Hod, and I mean, couldn't have made a better friend than with Mr. Hodna. So and he jumped up, man. He was one of the very first ones, and along with Marilyn Shue Carter. Yes. She was also another one of the very, very quick ones to jump. She didn't get on YouTube necessarily, but she was in the Facebook groups posting little videos telling me and others her story of how she got involved and everything. So I love hearing those stories from people. I mean, So.
Anyway, Andrew, we got you on obviously to ask you about your thoughts on how it all went over the weekend.
I mean, I think it went really well. I watched about half of everybody's because I was in constant preparation trying to get mine. Yeah. But I'm planning on going back and finishing everything that I didn't watch. But I had a little audio issue to start Saturday night's video.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, when you were by yourself, you were garbling. It was weird.
Yeah, the quality in my second video with Dr. Crane, it still wasn't where I wanted it. So I'm trying to make some technical adjustments, but I'll get there. But overall, it was, I thought it was good. It's just the quality could have been a lot better for sure.
Well, I must admit, I've been using StreamYard since the lockdown as a means of doing music lessons.
Right.
And just using the backstage facility of it, because of course that never uses up any of your 20 hours a month, you see. So yeah, I find it really strange. Some days I'll get in touch, people will get in touch and I can't hear them, they can't hear me. And I find literally just leave the studio, come back in again, and that'll often fix the problem. So it's
well, I think the problem was with mine, and I should have known better, is for MaM-a-Thon, I bought a Wi-Fi extender, one of the better ones that you could buy, thinking that that's really going to help my quality out. Well, I should have did some test runs before I used it. Right. And so, I was actually running off of the extender instead of the direct feed. So I'm thinking that's probably, was my problem. Now, like right now, I'm running right off of the modem. So I think it's probably better than it was.
So are you on a laptop? Is that what you're on?
Right. I'm on a laptop.
Where's your router compared to where you're at right now?
About 50 feet.
Yeah. Do you have crawl space under your house?
Yeah, I got crawl pad. Yeah, me and my wife talked about it yesterday. We're talking about getting another setup going on, but
I was
we're
thinking if you ran a hard wire underneath the
Yeah.
house, and where that way when you're sitting there at your desk or whatever to broadcast, you can just plug in. Hard wire is always going to be the best.
right. And that's what we talked about. So I'm in progress of, or in the process of trying to get that done too. So
Right. That's
But-
cool. That's cool.
I went back and watched the interview I did with Dr. Crane, and his audio and video was perfect. Thomas's was perfect, but mine was a little glitchy. I was like, man, that you know, I thought I had the problem fixed. So
That's the problem with extenders, is that they're good if you're looking for low data, you know, connections further away. But the problem is that by the nature of them, they knock the data down by like 50%, just by the way that they function. They slow it down. So extenders aren't the best. The things that are best is to get an access point that you can run a wire, you know, somewhere close to the area that you want to broadcast to, and then have the AP broadcast that way, because it works better. And then it's just like connecting directly to your like router.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get an Ethernet cord and fix it all up. That way, next time I won't have those issues.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, everything was good. I mean, you know, like I said, I'm kind of like Mr. Paul. His video quality right now looks amazing, you know, and I'm just always trying to strive to, you know, have great quality in anything I do. That's all.
Right.
Well, I must admit, thank you for that kind compliment. I must admit, to begin with, it was just literally, you know, I've got my here in the studio, I've got my flags up, I've got my banners, and that was all I started off with. And it was just by sheer fluke that I discovered that on the StreamYard you could operate a green screen, and you could do so on the free package rather than, you know, having to go for the updated, you know, more expensive one.
I'm like Andrew. I paid for the StreamYards.
I went ahead and paid for it, and then as soon as I paid for it, everybody's like, "Oh, you should have tried this one, or you should have tried that one." I was like, "Well, I wish these suggestions would have been made, you know, at an early."
Yeah, right. Yeah,
because I paid for the whole year, and yeah, you're right, Mr. Paul. The green screen is amazing, but before I would have had that thought, I went ahead and had this poster made, and so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna stick with it. Ain't no big deal. But I ain't, you know, the green screen looks amazing, and what I like about it is you can change your background per video. You know, so
it looks amazing. Or mid video. You know, you could, like, if you go from talking about Colburn to talking about Link, so you can have Colburn behind you at first, and then Link behind you when you're talking about Link, and you know, and then if you move on to Fastbender, you can have Fastbender behind you.
I don't know if I want either one of them three to be behind me.
You'd be like, you know, I happen to know that Hollywood has a green screen, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised that he didn't have like pictures of King Kratz like cycling through behind him the entire time. You know how much he loves to put those pictures of King Kratz up. Hollywood, man. He's, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, we interrupted you, Paul.
Well, like, no, I don't think we actually mentioned Ken Kratz too much, did we?
Oh, Johnny was. Johnny kept putting up pictures of him.
Yeah. I mean, he's more or less disappeared. He's closed his YouTube channel down, hasn't he? You know.
Yeah. He's hiding. He's crawling into the deepest, darkest hole he can find.
Yeah. So Andrew, leading up to MaM-a-Thon, where, you know, I mean, the dude actually admitted that he was quite stressed out leading up to MaM-a-Thon, but you'd have felt comfortable about it all, yeah?
No, I absolutely was, and I really can't explain it, but I was more nervous than I usually am, and typically if I'm just doing a regular video, I still get nervous. But for MaM-a-Thon, I was extremely nervous, and I'm guessing because of the added views that the live views that was going to be there, and then I was really nervous to interview Dr. Crane because it's hard for a country boy to have a dialogue with somebody that's so educated. But Yeah, but I mean, as soon as I started talking a little bit, most of it went away. But I was extremely nervous for sure.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, I think I think you've done absolutely fine, and I'm gonna guess that you've been doing videos now for quite a few months.
About 6.
6 months, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, it it doesn't take long, does it, dude, to get into the swing of things. But as you point out, you look back on when you first started.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, he was talking about Dr. Crane right there. And, that's like what I was like the first time I did my interview with Steve Moore. The first one I did. Oh, my God. I was just dreading in a way. I wanted to talk to him desperately, but like when it came to time to do it, making sure I wasn't going to screw up or trip over myself or anything, I was like totally mind screwing myself. But you get a couple under your belt, and those little demons inside your head start to shut up, and they start to go away.
Well, it made me feel a lot better right after that segment went off and we handed it over to you. He actually emailed me and told me that he actually, and you could tell when somebody's being genuine. Yeah. And he actually told me that he actually thoroughly enjoyed it.
He seemed to look like he was. Yeah.
And he said that anytime he would want me to come back, I would want him to come back on, that he wouldn't mind at all. So, typically if they didn't want to have nothing to do with it again after that, they wouldn't even suggest that. But I took him real genuine that he, thoroughly enjoyed all of the questioning,
Yeah, I honestly, when you were wrapping up with him, I actually kind of thought his facial expression was like, he kind of maybe felt like he was sorry it was ending so soon. It kind of came off that way, the way he looked. So yeah, it looks like you got a good relationship with that guy, man. So, and that's a good relationship to have. So
yeah, I mean, you can never have too many DNA questions. I mean, if you're doing, true crime or anything, I mean, there's tons of questions that can be asked to somebody like that. And I'm just lucky and fortunate that he was, responded, and that we do have that relationship built up now, because and I know you guys know, it's hard to get certain people unless you're Ripper.
Yeah, Hollywood's got the juice, man. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Johnny, Johnny is a very humble guy in certain ways, and it's funny, Ripper. But the fact is, because I was saying, I think in my first live, or maybe it was in one of the lives I did before MaM-a-Thon, the night before, I think, and I was talking about how I always, looked to Johnny in the beginning, because he came right out of the gate. Soon as Making a Murderer Part 1 came out in December of 2015, him and Mama Phoenix were like, boom, right out of the gate.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were just boom, boom, boom. So he talked about it, that I used to, he used to go into the Facebook groups, and he would see that I had shared his latest video. And I was like, but I didn't just share the video. I would talk it up. I would, go watch the video, go through all the main points that I felt were relevant. And then I would write a post pointing all that out, and then put the link to the video for people to watch. So yeah, him and I ended up becoming friends, because he realized I was his freaking press secretary, essentially. But no, anyway, so that's how we became friends. And then he started encouraging me. I mean, and then he dropped away, and I'm so happy now, though. I'm happy that he's kind of gotten back into it, and that Tiger King has kind of revamped him, and the ladies got him involved in MaM-a-Thon this year, which is brilliant. So
right.
I was sorry that we didn't have 80 more things involved in MaM-a-Thon. Would have liked to have seen 80 more things be involved, but having Johnny involved was also awesome. So I mean, you take the good with the bad, I guess.
Yeah, and I think things like this rejuvenates people, because Fresh Start Monday, or Alex, or Primal Movement Podcast, whatever you want to call him, I think he slightly reinvigorated, because he wants me to come on his podcast and talk about, Making a Murder too. So hopefully, I mean, like you guys was just saying, the more, the better. So, and Thomas, Alex told him during that live that he it's the same things that I've told him. You know, I said, look, you ought to start your own channel. You have a great radio voice. So now I think he's finally to that point where he's going to start his own channel too. It'll be more broad based, but
Right.
yeah, the more the better. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm sure you know, for people that's been doing it as long as y'all have, it's hard to keep grinding out content, but you know, sometimes you get reinvigorated, I would imagine.
Well, it's more of a, for me anyway. It's not a lack of desire. It's how many times have I talked about this subject?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and once you've talked about it so many times, you start to go, do I have anything new that I feel like I have to offer on this topic? You know, you start doing those things. And so that's when, you know, like I'm getting to the point now where it's like, yeah, I know Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey's cases and I can talk about them when I want to, but I think it's important, and this is something that I'm going to start really pushing people about, is that we need to look into other wrongful convictions, because we can look at the Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey wrongful convictions and we can learn from them. Right. But the fact of the matter is if we look at other wrongful convictions and look at how the same problems occur over and over and over again to get the same result, and so that there's an army of people out there like me and us pointing these things out, going, look, right, you got these common threads that run through every damn one of these wrongful convictions. This should be telling us something. And so when we can point those things out, like specifically, and show people and make it clear to them and make people understand why, even though I know people are very, very invested in Stephen and Brendan, it wouldn't hurt for you to get a tiny bit invested into some other wrongful convictions, just so you can speak with more knowledge and assurity that when you're arguing your points, that you are actually feeling well grounded in what you're saying and what you're arguing. It's a big part of it. So round yourselves off, folks. Learn about other wrongful convictions. I'm not saying ignore Stephen and Brendan, but learn about others.
Mr. Paul, I mean, that's a good point too, because I know a lot of times when I watch other shows, it'll give you ideas about making a murder. I've been watching other shows and then be like, well, hold on a second. You'll see maybe a piece of evidence they tested in this case, and you'll say, well, hold on, maybe I can apply this. So I mean, it's still useful to look at other cases and talk about them as well. And you almost have to have other cases to talk about. There's no way you can talk about nothing but Making a Murderer and Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey every single week, forever. You have to have change ups, or you'll just get stagnant.
Right. Creator burnout is real, folks.
I've made a couple of notes as we're going along. It's interesting that you stalked Johnny the way I kind of stalked you when I first.
It was just I don't know that I was stalking him, but I was certainly waiting for everything that came out on YouTube, and I was.
Yeah, well, I was the same. Every time you posted a video, I was straight in there. I wanted to see what you were saying.
Right, and. That was when Johnny was doing the like I said, his llama burn videos. Those were fascinating at the time because we were all trying to figure this out. We're hearing about burn cremains, and we're hearing that it can't be done in an open fire like that and everything. So here was Johnny had a llama that had unfortunately passed there on his property, and so he was able to conduct that experiment. And I mean, that was a really interesting one. And then he had others that were just.
Did he video that?
He
did a video of it.
He did a video about it. He didn't he didn't video the first burn, but he showed himself going and getting the bones after the first burn, and then he does actually show a significant portion of the second burn, or at least a lot of footage from the second burn, so that you can see how huge this freaking fire that he's making and that he's got these bones in. So anyways, it's two different videos. It's fascinating. And that was really where I started getting in with Johnny. And then also there was another one. Johnny did another really brilliant video for folks back in the first year. And maybe a lot of people won't know about this, but back in the first year on Facebook, folks, there was a takeover. There was a bit of a disagreement between the family that was running the Facebook, or the I should say the family members that were in charge of helping with the family Facebook group, and this other person that they had brought in to help them. Well, apparently there was a little bit of a disagreement between these two sides, and so the girl that was brought in to help ended up, because she was an admin, started bringing in guilters into the group and making guilters admins, and then these guilters started deleting everybody, deleted the other admins, the family out of it, and it was the family group takeover. Well, Johnny was up that night. He stayed up all night. He was in the family group helping, watching what was going on, watching the admins trying to fight the guilters and trying to take the group back over. And he did a whole video showing people, because people were waking up the next morning. This happened over like the middle of the night. So they're waking up the next morning and going into the family group and just seeing absolute chaos and having no idea what was going on. And so Johnny was right there. Boom. He'd been there all night. And that morning he had a video there to explain to everybody what was going on. So, I mean, these were things that Johnny was doing that made him a household name back in the day. But like I said, he faded away after a little while, and I'm glad he's back. So,
yeah, I was going to ask both of you what you thought about, is it possible to sort of become addicted to making a murder?
You go ahead, Andrew.
I mean, you can kind of be addicted to probably pretty much anything. I've learned by watching what's that show, Intervention. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, you can become addicted to making a murder. I don't know if you can as a YouTuber, for the simple fact that, like, for instance, I'm addicted to the case, but I know when to step away from it. Because you got work, you got a full-time job, and you got all these different things. You can't do it anyway. So, I mean, there are people that have found themselves severely entrapped into the material.
Sure. Dude?
So,
yeah. What was the question one more time? Let me just make sure I'm going to give you a proper answer here.
Is it possible? Well, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. When I first got involved in the case, I would say that, and I've noticed this with people, that the partners tend not to share that same enthusiasm for wanting to find out as much about the case. So is it possible to become sort of, for want of a better word, addicted to the case?
Right. Well, I'd have to say, I mean, I got to be honest with myself. It kind of was. It was an addiction because I couldn't go. I mean, I tried to go to work the next day and just like go to work and life goes on.
Yeah.
But I couldn't. I'm sitting there the whole damn day. I'm working on different wires, sorting out all kinds of Cat 5s and everything I'm sorting out. But ever present is that poor 16-year-old kid is sitting in prison. He doesn't belong there. And I'm like, I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't shake it. So I'm like eventually getting my job done so that I can hurry the hell home, because I'm like, wait, I want to start looking into this. And that's when I started digging in and found the Facebook groups, found the documents, and just started getting, and yeah, so it was a bit like an addiction, but it's a little bit different than an addiction in the sense that it's more wholesome.
Sure.
I mean, it actually makes you feel better about yourself. Whereas,
there's nothing wrong with that, is there?
Yeah, and whereas
nothing wrong with
and it's a genuine
getting a warm feeling from it.
Whereas drugs tend to give you a fake good feel. You know what I mean? It's slight differences, but maybe just a little.
I mean, surely there are worse things to be addicted to than making a murderer.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention was the fact that when it comes to talking about the case, you touched on the fact that you end up repeating yourself.
Yeah.
But again, that isn't a bad thing, because when you're trying to educate people, it's I'm a music teacher, so I'm aware of this concept. When you're trying to explain to people concepts in music, you often have to present it the same information, but present it in a slightly different way each time.
Or try to jazz it up in a different way, or present it. in a different way or a unique way. Yeah, certainly.
So I was going to ask you, Andrew, about. I know that Eric Oze's one of Eric Oze's great passions is actually for Scott Davis.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But I believe you've also looked at one or two other cases.
Scott Davis's dad.
Right.
But I'm trying to get him on so that folks can see the pain that gentleman's going through.
Yeah.
But anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, Andrew.
Well, I mean, I've watched and documentaries and things like that about wrongful convictions, but as far as making content, I really haven't made, too much about wrongful convictions. There has been other murder cases and stuff that I've talked about and things like that I get interested into a lot, especially when you have a lot of forensics involved in the case. But I haven't talked too much about wrongful convictions, outside of Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey this far. I've only been doing it for 6 months, so I'm sure I will be at some point. But I followed a lot of them, so I just haven't had enough information to really make a video about any of the other ones.
Yeah. So you were saying that you've looked at one or two of the other murder cases. Were there any in particular that you found particularly interesting?
Well, there's three in particular. The Jeff Davis 8 is what it's called, where 8 women were killed in Jeff Davis Parish, Louisiana. And if you watch the documentary Murder in the Bayou, it actually implicates, it has a lot of the same parallels between making a murderer, as government officials, malfeasance and stuff, and how they're connected to some of those murders. And then the one where the girl got burned essentially to death in Mississippi. Jessica Chambers. And then most recently, I'm working on the case of Samantha Sharkis, where she was presumably had committed suicide. But if you start looking at the whole picture and you start looking at some of the forensic evidence and the lack of investigation, there's a lot of reason to believe there. Even the father doesn't believe she killed herself. So that's just certain cases that I like, looking into right now, aside from making a murderer.
Right.
And dude, what about the other case that you're very interested in, of course, is the Michael Funk case.
Yeah. Eagle Nation. Yep. So we talked with Don Davies last night, folks. Obviously, that's running into a bit of a snag with COVID-19 currently in effect. Movie producers and production companies can't exactly gather together to film movies right now.
Indeed.
Unfortunately. So that's probably going to put a bit of the hitch in the giddy up of $50 million bullet. So we're probably not going to get it December 5th on the anniversary of Michael Funk's death. But I mean, maybe we will. But I would imagine with COVID-19, it's probably going to end up making that date push back. But it's going to be great to see it. For those of you who saw last night, I played the trailer during MaM-a-Thon. I mean, folks, that trailer shows you right there. You don't need to know anything else but what's in that trailer. You clearly see the officer that shot Michael Funk being ordered to stand down and to not get involved, not once, but twice. By a superior officer. Right. Then you hear him say later on in the video how they're walking over to his commanding officer, and him and his co-officer or whatever are talking, and they're saying things like they were all shooters. There wasn't no hostages in there. They're already trying to come up with their narrative. They're already trying to work on their narrative. And then the crowning turd on this crap Sunday is when Hopper gets over to his commanding officer and he's laughing and acting like he's about to dance a jig after he just killed somebody who was a hostage. And he's actually gleeful. And then he tells his commanding officer he was cleared. He tells his commanding officer he was cleared to get back into duty and action there. He was no such thing.
All right.
It's all gotten brushed under the rug. So it's no good.
Well, for me, the big problem there is that it happened. It happened, and clearly somebody needs to be held accountable. And for me, the big problem is that Brad Schimmel was quite happy to just sweep it under the carpet and say that there wasn't enough evidence, or there's no way that we could bring charges against anybody over this. What a load of nonsense! If it had been Stephen Avery, he'd have been hung, drawn, and quartered by now.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose the one good thing is that if the $50 million bullet is being delayed, will that mean that convicting a murderer is also being delayed?
Well, I would say convicting a murderer is probably mostly done. So that's that's probably in post-production. So you probably don't need to be gathering together too many film crews at this point for that one. But I don't know. Maybe.
Do you think that Sean Reck has approached the likes of Netflix to take it on?
I believe he said he was going to approach them. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think they would, or they should?
I personally think they should. I personally think, because I've been through I and many others have been all throughout everything in this case. I don't see what he's going to come up with that's going to make any bit of difference. So I'll be intrigued to see what he tries to assert, I guess. I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'll put it that way. I'm intrigued.
I'm just wondering, Andrew, because at last year's rally, not last year, the year before rally, a certain individual got interviewed and is convinced that it was for the convicting a murderer crew. So I think
it might have been, but I actually, since last year, think maybe not. But then again, I am not sure, because I know Sean Reck uses students to help film his documentaries. So that's what they were. They were students. So it very well still could have been, but I'm more on the fence now than I was 2 years ago.
Anyway, sorry, just looking ahead over the next week or so, and possibly further. Jerome's desperate to to have people win a guitar.
Yes,
you're desperate to give away some magnets. I've got a few T-shirts here that I want to give away.
All right.
But how about if we do a sponsored shave?
What is that? What do you mean?
Oh well, get rid of whatever bum fluff we've got on our faces.
Okay, and then to what effect?
Well, you do it as a sponsored event to help raise money for the canteen funds, like the raffle.
I'm not having any raffles.
I need to explain it to you.
Do you mean drawing? Is that what you meant to say? Drawing? No. Anyways,
drawing what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I ain't having any raffles. You can have a raffle if you want. I ain't getting involved. A raffle implies that you're going to be making money on it. So you want to say it's a drawing.
It's a draw. Okay. It's a draw. But can I trust you to join in with me? Because Jerome's up for it.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
yeah.
Dude, he's got the... If that sucker was white, he'd be Santa Claus. Anyway.
Yeah. All we need to do is try and persuade Millbilly.
Yeah. So why don't we get to shave our beards for this? I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand.
It's just something you do. It's something you do. You arrange for for people to sponsor you to
I look like a 5-year-old without facial hair, dude. Are you kidding?
Yeah, same here.
Maybe we could all take a picture wearing a kilt or something.
Yeah. You gotta get Andrew a kilt now. Of course, we still have to get Capaldi one, and he's in Scotland. Anyway.
Hey, listen. Been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt.
Right.
But no, the other thing I was finally going to mention, have you watched anything other anything recently other than your sort of typical Netflix documentary that's been of particular
Me?
interest? Yeah.
I watched lately. I watched 3 or 4 episodes of The Tiger King, and then I watched 3 or 4 episodes of Innocence Files, but I haven't finished either one of them yet. But that forensic odontology is something else, huh?
Oh, that is absolutely,
That's crazy.
I just loved watching that guy get flustered in those two. I mean, the guy, the forensic odontologist who was taking all the hits, right?
Dr. Michael West.
Watching him get flustered and like people are pointing out, no, this doesn't work, and he's just like, no, like he's God, and like he can't be wrong. Like I was just like, whoa, dude, that guy's a piece of work, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, he wasn't going to admit to any wrongdoing, even when his idol told him.
He was not just 100% wrong, 110%.
Oh man,
crawfish bites on the body, and he's sitting there rolling teeth around on the march. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, somebody like Michael West is definitely on a par, if not even worse, than somebody like Dwayne Deaver. Right. Dwayne Deaver is the forensic expert, so-called expert in the staircase situation.
Michael Peterson.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's just
seen the staircase, Andrew.
Huh?
Have you seen the staircase?
I'll be honest with you, I watched the staircase, but I can't, other than I can picture the guy's face that's in it. Yeah. And I remember the first couple episodes, but I couldn't tell you exactly, what the ending of that was. But I remember I started watching it it's been on Netflix for a while, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I remember. I started watching it, I would say a couple months ago, and I either didn't finish it, but I know I got at least halfway through. I couldn't really tell you what it was about, if to save my life right now.
Yeah.
Other than I know his wife fell down the stairs and died, and they was trying to see whether or not if it was an accident or if he did it. But
right. It's a good one.
I don't know about you, you guys, but I mean, I find that I need to go back and watch something again. Like, for example, I've literally on the coffee table there, I've got pen and paper, and I'm going through the Innocence Files again, and you make notes as you go along of things that come to you, and so I still watch that, but because of this lockdown stuff. Eunice was telling me that a lot of people have actually gotten into a film that was a real cult film, not The Big Lebowski, a film called With Nell and I. Have you ever heard of With Nell and I?
I've heard that before. I've heard that name before. Yeah.
It's this takes us back, me and Eunice, to back to the days before the kids came along. And that's when I first watched With Nell and I, and you'll recognise, of course, I'll highlight some of these pictures. You'll recognise, of course, Richard E. Grant and Paul McGann.
Was that Paul McGann? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, Doctor Who. Yeah. That's the film With Nell and I. And we did more or less what we did sort of 25 years ago, and we watched it again and did the rather dangerous thing of every time they have a drink in the film, you have to have a drink as well. And I can assure you, it is absolutely brilliant fun.
Yeah. Until you pass out.
You should try it. You've even got, as you can see, you've got like Uncle Vernon from the Harry Potter.
Oh, okay, Uncle Vernon. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, definitely well worth a watch. I can definitely recommend with Nell and I. It's fun, and see if you can manage the Capaldi challenge, which is to stay awake till the end.
I actually watched last night. Netflix had something pop up last night. It was a little 30-minute show about coronavirus,
Right.
that I thought was somewhat interesting. And being only 30 minutes, it was worthwhile. You know, it was kind of showing where it all came from, kind of how it's been progressing, what it is, what a coronavirus is, kind of, just kind of giving some of the basic explanation on it. It was pretty interesting. So
yeah, there you go. With Nell is my favorite movie. There's two of us here that have got good taste. But yes,
when I think of movies that I like a lot, I think of like one of them. I think of is Bull Durham. Kevin Costner baseball movie. It's brilliant. It's a great movie with Susan Sarandon and stuff. And it's just for people that love baseball and stuff. It's a great movie. So I would suggest that one.
What's it called?
Bull Durham. It's about the Durham Bulls. So it's set in the same place as the staircase. So the Durham Bulls are the little B league, like it's like a minors, like a minor league team,
a baseball team.
Yeah.
Oh, because I enjoyed the film Moneyball.
Oh, I want to see that one. I've been meaning to see that one.
Have you seen that one, Andrew, with Brad Pitt in it?
No, I don't think I have, but before it slips my mind, if pertaining to wrongful convictions, have y'all seen The Next 3 Days with Russell Crowe and I forget her name. It's really good. His wife gets convicted of a murder that she didn't commit, and then he knows she didn't do it, but he realizes she's never getting out of prison, so he orchestrates a plan. He's actually a professor at a college. He orchestrates a plan to get her out of prison. Wow. And it's pretty brilliant. If you haven't seen it, you ought to see it.
Well, sounds good, yeah. And it's called, sorry? Next 3 days.
3 days.
The Next 3 Days.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, no. The as I say, if we'll just finish off shortly. I seriously think that we should do something about the old facial hair, because I mean, we could make donations to some very, very important funds, to very, 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 very important, people in need of, some extra funds.
That's another good thing, dude. Freaking Stacy, dude.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. I didn't know that he was planning to do what he did afterward, but yeah. I had the clip from him last year that he put up after MaM-a-Thon ended. I had that video queued up already for the end of my segment. And so right at the end of my segment, all of a sudden everybody's coming in there like, Stacy's gonna go live. Stacy's gonna go live. I'm like, oh, that's good. That way he won't end up like this. And then I played the clip from last year where he's sitting there and he's like, nobody's live. Nobody's live. Like, oh, it was brilliant. And then he went for about an hour and 20 minutes, played at least 12 songs. Wasn't in a rush. It was great. It was awesome. It was a great way to wind down. Yep.
Absolutely. Right. Anyway, I did promise that we wouldn't keep this too long. I'm actually very nearly up to my 20-hour maximum for the month.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, believe it or not.
How many pounds is it going to set you back if you have to pay?
Well, I won't be doing that, because there's no need to, because this StreamYard does everything I need. It was just that I've been doing a few lives.
What the price tag is in the UK?
Sorry?
I said I was just curious what the price tag is in the UK.
It's the same. It's the same. They just convert it.
120 or what is it? No, 100, $240, whatever the equivalent is.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to go get my
Morning.
pound to dollar calculator. I'll figure it out.
No, you are apparently the maths man. So yes, come on, quickly. Anyway, Andrew, I'm really glad. Well, obviously we're all really glad because you're basically the sort of the newest host that we've had.
Right.
So it was great that you.
Sharon might have.
Great to see what you're doing with your channel.
Sharon might be just a tiny bit newer.
Oh
Sharon, a tiny bit newer.
Who is I?
Sharon.
Yes.
My trusty GD.
Yeah, but we all knew Sharon back in at least a year ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
Sharon's been around a long.
In the last couple of months to get her on video.
Yeah.
So.
But of course,
I'm very proud of Sharon, folks. Did you guys see that video she made for Teresa Hallbach, folks? Oh, man.
Yeah.
She knocked it out of the park with that mother. Oh, that was a good video. I loved it.
Yeah. But of course, the good news is that all of the hosts next year, they get MaM-a-Thon off next year because all the guests, they then become the hosts next year. Is that right?
Yep. Sharp as a Pencil's YouTube channel going to be coming up soon, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yep,
absolutely.
Okay. Dude, I'll get you to do a final word, and then I'll get a final word from Andrew, and then we'll say cheerio. Okay.
All right, folks. Well, you know the song and dance with me. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.
Andrew,
check out my channel if you haven't already. Making Two Murderers, and y'all have a good evening.
Yep, absolutely. Check out both channels. If I'm sure everybody has checked out all your channels, and there's various places where you can go and do that. So yes, it's good night from Eric Jose, and it's good night from Andrew, and it's good night from them. Good night, and thanks for joining.
See you, everybody.
See ya.
See you.
Let's do that. Yes.
Yeah, I think he rolled out.